This happened quite a while ago when I was 22. Enough time has gone by that I now feel comfortable sharing it. I had just graduated from college, had a great job, and very few expenses since I was living with my parents in my childhood home. Imagine saving up a good amount of money without stressing about rent or groceries, all while having full access to my childhood room, my car, and all the comforts of my hometown. I can confidently say I was living an ideal life. I truly appreciated how fortunate I was to have parents who let me stay at home without charging rent. I realize not everyone has that privilege, so I never took it lightly. Still, not everything was as easy as it might seem. What I'm about to share happened less than a month after I moved back in. I've never been the type of girl my peers would call a party girl. I don't drink heavily, I don't spend all my weekends at clubs, and I definitely don't let guys control any part of my life. That's just how I was brought up. My dad is the most important man in my life, and the whole hookup scene has always grossed me out. Because of that, my lifestyle is pretty predictable. I wake up, feed my caffeine habit, head to work, go to the gym, read a few pages of a book at home, scroll through my phone, and then go to sleep. On weekends, I like to go hiking, take quick road trips, play board games, or just do whatever sounds fun. But on one random weekend, my closest friend from college, Lindsay, invited me and our two other friends, Sabrina and Thea, to spend a few days at her family's beach house. I had never been there before, but based on how Lindsay described it, the place sounded like a dream. Quiet, away from the crowds, with a private beach just steps from the ocean. To be blunt, Lindsay's family is very wealthy. I believe both of her parents were neurosurgeons, so I had a strong feeling their beach house would be incredible, and I wasn't disappointed the moment I saw it. I was completely amazed. I'm not an architect or anything, but I know a modern home when I see one, and Lindsay's looked more like a military safe house than a regular house. I'd love to show you some photos. Trust me, I have tons. But out of respect for Lindsay's family, I think sharing those would be really inappropriate, even if none of what I'm about to say happened. The four of us brought our things inside and picked our sleeping spots. Even though Lindsay had enough rooms for each of us to have our own, we figured it would be more fun to stay together. So we all chose to sleep in one of the children's bedrooms, which had 2 bunk beds and its own bathroom. We were there for 3 nights, which I think is the perfect amount of time to stay with anyone who isn't family. I can get a little irritable, so people who are messy or rude tend to bother me quickly. Not that my friends are like that, but you get what I mean. I know I've already mentioned my tame lifestyle, but if there was ever a time to cut loose, it was that weekend. So I did plan to relax and drink a little more than usual. We wanted to keep the first night low-key though. So we headed down to the private beach and sat in the sand looking up at the stars. We were sipping White Claws and playing house music on Sabrina's speaker when we spotted something in the distance. A faint flickering light was glowing farther down the beach. We all went quiet and just stared as the light blinked on and off. It had a weirdly mesmerizing quality to it, even though it was also kind of unsettling. After a while, it became clear that the light was swaying side to side, like someone holding a flashlight. And not long after that, we realized that's exactly what it was. It looked like a small group, maybe 3 or 4 people, just casually strolling toward us. They weren't running, staggering, or moving oddly. They were just walking at a normal pace. As they got closer, we heard laughter, which helped ease the tension. Considering how late it was, they were probably just teens or maybe people our age. They must have seen us too, because eventually one of them shouted hi in a friendly tone. It was a male voice, and he sounded like he was around our age. Thea called back, and we exchanged some casual conversation as they approached. When they reached us, we saw it was three guys who looked just a little older than us. They had the classic beach guy look, which I could immediately tell my friends liked, especially Thea. She tends to be wild when it comes to men, so I wasn't shocked. She already knows how I feel about her choices, so I'm not saying anything new. To be fair, she's absolutely stunning, and I've never seen a guy not be drawn to her. The guys sat down with their beers, and the seven of us kept drinking. It actually turned out to be a really good time. They weren't too flirty, but they weren't dull either. An hour and a few more drinks later, they invited us to come back to their place. Personally, I was tired and leaning toward heading to bed, but I could tell all three of my friends wanted to keep hanging out, especially Thea. I didn't want to be a buzzkill, so I told them to go ahead without me and turned in for the night. There were only 3 guys, and I wasn't planning on hooking up with anyone anyway. I made my way back to Lindsay's house while the rest of them walked along the beach, probably toward wherever the guys were staying. I cleaned up and went to bed. A little after 3 a.m., I was woken by a FaceTime call from Lindsay, which was weird since she should have been home or with one of the guys by then. I answered, still half asleep, and what she said jolted me awake. She basically screamed that Thea and Sabrina had been kidnapped and I needed to grab her car right away. Her words hit me like ice water. I've never felt fear and adrenaline like that before. I jumped into action immediately. My hands were trembling as I quickly got dressed and ran downstairs. I asked why she called me instead of the cops, and she said she already had. She kept me on the phone as she talked me through what to do. Following her directions, I got the driveway gate open, found her keys, and sped off in just a few minutes. She told me the car was about 10 houses down the beach, on the left side, so that's where I headed. She gave me a description of the vehicle and which direction it went, and I floored it trying to catch up. There wasn't a single other car out, and I was driving way too fast. I'm still shocked I didn't get pulled over. After a few minutes, I spotted a car up ahead that matched what she described, moving slowly. I ended our call and dialed 911, telling the dispatcher exactly where I was. They told me to keep a safe distance and not alert the suspect, so I did. After what felt like forever, I finally saw flashing police lights. The car didn't speed off or anything. They probably figured the stop wasn't related to them. I pulled over and watched everything from a distance. It was total chaos. The police pulled all 3 men out of the car at gunpoint. They cuffed them and walked them over to the squad cars. Then one of the officers opened the SUV's trunk and found both Thea and Sabrina tied up and looking pretty bruised. As terrifying as the whole situation was, it was nothing compared to what they told us later. For the record, all 3 girls were fine with me writing this. We're still very close, so of course I asked first. But none of them wanted to write it themselves, and honestly, I don't blame them. Long story short, after I left, they kept drinking. Lindsay was the only one who stayed relatively sober, since it was her family's house. Eventually, the guys invited Thea and Sabrina to stay over, and the 4 of them split off. Lindsay told the last guy she was heading home. That guy got really upset, and at first Lindsay assumed it was just because he liked her. She told him she might have stayed but needed to keep an eye on the house. He got angry. They argued for a bit, and he told her to leave and never come back. She was fine with that, but on her way back, she realized she had left her purse, so she returned to get it. That's when she saw the guys forcing Thea and Sabrina into the SUV before speeding off. She called the cops, then me, and that was how it all unfolded. Thea's parents, both lawyers, pulled strings to do 2 major things: keep the incident out of the public eye and make sure the guys got the longest sentences possible. They succeeded. The house the men were staying in wasn't even theirs. It belonged to an elderly couple who were out of the country. That, along with the other charges, got them locked up for a long time. Still, I don't think any prison sentence could ever truly make up for what they did. As much as I hate saying it, the trauma stayed with me for years. I couldn't handle beaches, late nights, or even chatting with strangers, no matter how safe it seemed. I became closed off and started drifting away from my friends for a while, but thankfully, I've since moved past that. I can't begin to understand what Thea and Sabrina went through. A part of me believes that not remembering the event might actually be a blessing. What haunts me the most is that if I hadn't gone home that night, I might not have gotten to Lindsay's car in time. And if that hadn't happened, the police might never have found the men's vehicle.